there's no place like home for the holidays. And no matter how far away you roam, if you pine for the sunshine of a friendly gaze, for the holidays you can.
Welcome back to Horror for the Holidays. I'm Jeff Searcy.
I'm Jay Logsdon.
Jay, let's talk about some vampires.
Oh shit, we're going to talk about vampires. When you told me this episode was going to suck, and I was like, how's that going to be any different from every other episode we've done?
But this one is going to suck much harder, Jay.
Yeah, I didn't know what you meant, but yeah, we're going to talk about vampires, apparently.
Well, there's been like a resurgence lately of vampire-based media. I mean, we had some great vampire movies last year. We're getting a few more this year. I think we got a Nosferatu remake and this Abigail movie we're planning on seeing so far. And I think there's some kind of Dracula-related thing coming out near October.
Ooh.
So we're going to have to wait and see. But it seems like vampires are becoming popular again. Because they were popular. They had a little bit of a resurgence in the mid-90s to early 2000s. We had like Interview with a Vampire. We had Blade. We had Underworld.
Yep, I remember all of those. We had Twilight.
Yeah, less so Twilight, but yes.
We had Forever Night, the like one season show that was based off the Vampire Masquerade role-playing game, but then the lead actor got decapitated on a motorcycle, and so the series got canceled.
Oof. Let the Right One In, of course. We had that one. But yes, lots of vampire-based media, and it seems to be making a little bit of a comeback. I mean, horror in general in the last few years seems to be making a comeback.
No, I think I said to someone the other day, I was like, we've kind of gotten out of the like remake era. Like I think we still do get occasional remakes. I mean, they're doing that remake of that one movie that came out last year that was like a European film. And then Blumhouse is making a remake this year. I can't remember its name. It's like a statement, but I can't remember what it's called off the top of my head.
I don't know. It's not Cuckoo, is it?
No, it's something else.
Okay.
Man, I'll look it up after I'm done talking here, so I can. Listeners are screaming into their headphones right now. But all that to say, I think we are kind of entering a golden age of horror movies again.
Yes, it does seem that way. It seems like the tyrannical reign of superheroes that's been running since the early 2000s is finally over, Jay. I think superheroes are going to take a back seat to some different kinds of movies finally.
Yes, finally. I mean,
I was thinking about that the other day. It's like we've really just been, ever since I've been a kid, basically, been getting bombarded with superhero movies. It hasn't always been Marvel. That started in 2008, but there were a ton of superhero movies before that. Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, honestly, one of the ones that kicked it off was when we mentioned earlier, Blade.
Yep. Yeah, which, I mean, is fun, but yes, is also...
We got 3 Blades. We got 3 Spider-Men. We had 2 Fantastic Four movies, I think.
Yep.
What else did we have before?
3 X-Men.
We had 3 X-Men. We had a Hulk movie. So yes, we've been getting bombarded. So if it feels like you've been being bombarded with superhero movies forever, it's because you have been.
Speak No Evil, I believe, is the name of the movie.
Speak No Evil. Yeah, I did see a trailer for the Blumhouse remake.
I think like it came out last year, was incredibly popular, and then Blumhouse goes, you know what, we're gonna remake it.
Exactly.
And everyone I've talked to who's mentioned this movie is like, I don't know why they're remaking it. The movie was pretty much in English anyway.
Well, you know. I don't know. It could end up being because, like, Let Me In and Let the Right One In, those are both good in their own ways. So maybe this will have something good about it.
Yeah.
I'm
fingers crossed.
But yeah, what do you know about vampires, Jay?
Well, I played a lot. I was of a very inappropriate age to be playing Vampire the Masquerade, the role-playing game. Played a lot of that with some friends in middle school and high school. Beyond that, I mean, I've read some vampire stuff. I know a little bit about vampire folklore, stuff like that.
Well, would it surprise you to know that vampires stretch all the way back to Mesopotamian myth, Jay?
It wouldn't surprise me.
They had a Mesopotamian demon called a Letu. That was a demon who drained the life force of pregnant women and infants. And that story evolved into the Greek and Roman tales about blood-drinking ghouls that haunted the night, like the Lamia and the Impusa.
I was going to bring up the Lamia. There was that anime Better Man that he was a vampire kind of. That was a fun show. I never finished it, but I did like what I saw.
But a lot of our modern vampire myth is kind of tied to the Slavic myths about vampires from Eastern Europe. You know, the whole man raised from the dead, pact with the devil, has to return to his coffin to sleep, that kind of thing.
Yes.
That's all the European folklore. Also, the Slavic myth is where we get the whole they can shape shift and control animals thing, too.
Vlad the Impaler kind of stuff.
Yeah. Very, which, speaking of him, it's like, pretty sure he was not a vampire, but probably one of the most brutal people to ever live, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, wasn't it like 400 some people he killed? Like,
oh yeah, by himself, personally ordered the deaths, probably thousands.
And I think I read a thing the other day that like he would dip his bread in the blood of people he had killed and eat it, which is like, all right, you do you, man.
And yeah, they called him the Impaler because he would take people and put them on these big wooden spikes and just kind of like set it not in their ass, but next to their ass and let them kind of slide down the pole slowly until they died. So, you know, that's pleasant.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
What a way to go.
I mean, that's how you get a nickname like the Impaler, Jay. You gotta do what you gotta do. So what would you consider the first big vampire story in pop culture?
I mean, so that's the thing. I mean, technically, I think I think it would be like the Bram Stoker's Dracula. You know, for my money, at least in like modern day. You know, that's kind of the like everything kind of got established from that.
Would you be surprised to learn, Jay, that Bram Stoker was actually inspired by a story that came out 20 years earlier?
I would be surprised to know
called Carmilla. Carmilla is a female vampire, but it's essentially Dracula. She does basically everything Dracula does, except she uses her sexual powers on a woman instead of using it as a man to seduce women. So it was considered even more scandalous at the time.
I could go for that one.
But actually, it's a pretty good story. And yeah, Carmilla, she does everything that Dracula does, like the hypnosis type things, the feeding on people when they're sleeping in her castle, controlling animals, shape-shifting, all that kind of stuff. And reportedly, Bram Stoker was a big fan of that, and he's like, maybe I could make my own version. And which, of course, it's kind of like the Hydrox Oreo thing. Dracula's become way more popular than Carmilla, even though she was technically first.
But I can make my own version, but then I'm going to get all pissy when Nosferatu comes out.
Oh, yeah, true. Also, can we talk about Dracula for a minute? What a weird way to write a story, a series of letters.
Yeah, I agree. There's a, I've thought about doing it for the podcast. I've never done it. But there is a way you can sign up to get emails in your inbox corresponding with the days that the letters are sent or written or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And so it's like you are reading Dracula. I think it's called like Dracula Daily, and you are reading the letters as they arrive or whatever. And I think that's such a neat idea.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I was kind of surprised that somebody would be that bold to write a book in that style so early on. Because, I mean, yeah, now people would probably jump at something unique like that. But at the time, I'm sure it was a pretty big risk. It's like, is this even going to get published?
Also, can we talk about Dracula? It turns out he can get wet. Yes.
I've done the research, Jay. My good friend Nick Lutzko and I have done the research, and we found out that Dracula can, in fact, get wet.
If you don't know what we're talking about, look up that video. Dracula can get wet. It's a lot of fun.
All right, Jay. So, what do you think? You mentioned it, but the first vampire movie in cinema was a silent film called Nosferatu: A Symphony of Horror.
And then he shows up and he flicks the light off and on at the Krusty Krab.
Now, it was filmed as a silent movie, but it actually heralded the beginning of movies with sound because it did have a rudimentary soundtrack attached to it in post-production. which is one of the things that makes it a little awkward to watch now because the soundtrack was not intended when they filmed it, so it doesn't match up completely. I mean, they did a pretty good job considering they were stitching it together after the fact, but you do notice sometimes where the musical cues don't really fit with what's on screen. But of course, everybody thinks of 1931's Dracula with Bela Lugosi when they think of classic vampire movies.
Right, absolutely.
I mean, I don't. Have you went to see it at Flicks? I went to see it last Halloween.
I don't think I've seen it in theaters. That's what I would like to go see.
Still holds up. It's pretty good.
I did. They did some Hammer movies last year at Varsity, and I went to go see one of those. But I think I saw like Son of Frankenstein or Curse of Frankenstein.
Okay.
But no, I would like to go see some of those old Universal movies on the big screen.
Mentioning Hammer movies, those obviously came next in the 50s and 60s, and it's like I said, those were the ones I always caught on rerun as a kid. So that Christopher Lee is who I always considered to be Dracula. And the first one I think is called The Horror of Dracula from 1958, and that one's basically just a remake of the book, which is pretty solid. Some of the later ones get kind of wacky. I don't know. I love it, but a lot of people hate it. It's called Dracula 1972 AD. Have you ever seen that one?
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's a pretty crazy one. Basically, a gang of hippies accidentally reawakens Dracula and gets stalked and killed by him.
Oh, that sounds like a blast. That sounds right up my alley.
And of course, we've talked like Near Dark. I think we've mentioned on this podcast before. The Lost Boys, I'm sure a lot of people have seen. Vampire movies kind of got less horror and more like edgy teen in the 70s and 80s.
Yep.
And then, of course, that was all culminating in the edgiest of edgy movies, Twilight, Jay.
Yes, those are movies.
But, of course, there was a huge resurgence in the late 80s when the books came out, and then the 90s when the movie came out with Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire. And, of course, casting Tom Cruise as a vampire pretty much guaranteed that women would be in love with vampires again.
A young, I think I did read, a young Jay did read Interview with a Vampire. The scene I remember most vividly from the book is the discussion about, like, maybe it's Lestat's brother falling down the stairs or something like that. Like, I vividly just kind of remember that scene.
Yeah. I always vividly remember the scene from the movie where they give him the dead man's blood and like the way he writhes and his veins turn black or whatever. I always thought that was really cool.
No, I've not seen the movie. Like I've seen that scene before.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So following that lineage, of course, we had Blade, which was it was not typical for vampire movies because it had a vampire as a hero.
The Daywalker.
Yes. I mean, such a cool movie.
My introduction to Blade, we're both comic book guys, but my introduction to Blade was the Spider-Man animated series in the 90s. They did like Michael Morbius was a reoccurring character, and so they introduced Blade to kind of fight him.
It's Morbin time.
And yeah, it was Morbin time. And then I think they did an arc where like, it was more like, I gotta go be Superman 4, the quest for peace, and he just like leaves. It was like, Blade and Morbius went off to go fight vampires, and then they brought them back later on.
And then we talked about, we mentioned it earlier, but there was Let the Right One In, which it's kind of not a vampire hero story, but more of a beginning, like what I would call the Twilightification of vampires, where they can be your friend.
Right.
But basically, vampire movies kind of went cold, I would say, between like 2010 and 2020, other than like some Twilight sequels thrown in there at the beginning of the 2010s.
Yep.
And but now they're back. I mean, we had Last Voyage of the Demeter, which I thought was a great movie.
I did too.
Apparently,
I really
no one saw, no one cared about.
No, it was a blast. Last Voyage of the Demeter was so much fun.
Of course, we got this Abigail movie coming up, which, I mean, if you're going to do a vampire movie, you almost have to put a twist on it, and this twist seems pretty interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, I'm very, very excited for Abigail. And then Robert Eggers' Nosferatu later this year.
And, with his crazy sensibility. Did you see The Northman, Jay?
No, I did not.
Crazy movie. But, like, beautifully shot. So I'm hoping we'll have that same kind of cinematography in Nosferatu.
No, Northman is what I want to see as well. That's something that's on my list, but not made it around to seeing it yet.
All right, so we've established that vampires are very real and they exist, Jay, obviously.
Yeah, so all those documentaries we just mentioned, Blade and Twilight.
So many documentaries.
Bram Stoker's Dracula with Keanu Reeves? No.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And I also, the only scene I remember from that movie, I think is the only scene I've seen, where he walks into the room and there's all like the naked vampire ladies.
Oh, so yeah, I forgot to mention that. That was our link between 80s vampires like The Lost Boys and the Anne Rice vampires. There was that Dracula remake in 1992.
Gary Oldman
Yes, Gary Oldman is Dracula.
with his big haircut.
Yes,
He looks more like Emperor Palpatine than he looks like Dracula.
Yes, in his de-blooded state, yes, he looks very creepy and old. But yes, that's got Keanu Reeves being British but still having his surfer accent.
And then parodied in one of the Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes
Yes,
with Mr. Burns as Dracula.
Also, Hotel Transylvania. I don't know if you've seen all those movies, Jay.
I've not seen them. My kids watch them in the van, so I will hear the story as it goes, but I don't really know what happens.
Dracula's son-in-law, what's his name?
Johnny.
Yeah, sure.
Andy Samberg.
Yeah, he I think it's in the second movie. They have a party at the end where Dracula's grandson is supposed to meet his dad, and Jonathan dresses up as the Gary Oldman old Dracula with the giant hairpiece in the red room.
Oh man, now I gotta make my way to seeing that.
It's worth it for that scene alone, I think. But yes, very entertaining, parodied many times. My wife, when we went to, it was re-released last year, so we went to Cinemark to see it, and my wife's comment at the end was, "What the fuck did I just watch?" And I believe you will have the same reaction. All right, Jay, so let's say we got these real vampires and all these vampire documentaries. What are some weaknesses you could exploit to get rid of vampires, Jay?
Well, sunlight.
Of course, yes. But not all vampires.
Okay.
Because in the 1992 Dracula we just talked about, he's weakened by daylight, but not destroyed by it.
Okay. We also forgot to mention Buffy. That's a link between.
That's true.
That's also the vampires are your friends and sexy.
Yep.
You got David Boreanaz just. Anyway. Stake through the heart, of course.
Yes, that's pretty much a universal killer. Unless it's a very, very powerful vampire.
They don't like garlic.
That's true.
Sometimes. Is it crosses in general, or is it silver crosses?
Crosses in some vampires, it's crosses in general. Basically, any kind of holy symbol. But usually, the person has to believe in the faith of the holy symbol, otherwise it doesn't work.
So I believe in the faith of Black Christmas. So I'll just carry my copy of Black Christmas on DVD with me, and that'll protect me from vampires.
Actually in the Hammer movies, Van Helsing exploits. Oh, that's another one. Van Helsing, obviously, we didn't mention in the 2000s. Running water, Jay.
Oh yeah, they can't cross running water.
And there's I don't know if it's it might be in 1972 AD. Actually, Van Helsing turns on the tub, and so the vampire can't reach his hand through the stream of water in the tub to grab him.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. Counting objects, Jay. Obviously, the count from Sesame Street.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yes, if you throw any number of, in most folklores, if you throw a number of objects in front of a vampire, they're compelled to stop and count them.
Oh, man, I also need to, the count might be my favorite vampire in pop culture.
Of course, the titular thing in Let the Right One In, Jay. They must be invited inside.
Yes, of course.
Oh, another 80s vampire movie, Fright Night.
Yep.
Also with a good 2000s remake.
Is that the one with David Tennant?
I believe so, yes.
Oh, man, I just finished watching the new Doctor Who specials with him and Catherine Tate returning. He's so good as the Doctor. Anyway, that's beside the phone.
So you mentioned it with the silver cross, but much like werewolves, vampires are also, in a lot of stories, vulnerable to silver because of its purity.
The thing I liked about Vampire the Masquerade, the role-playing game, is they took like the vampire lore from like a bunch of different places and they kind of like added it all together. And so it's like, yes, certain vampires, like basically they said like the Tzimisce are Dracula. So they have to be like, when they sleep, they have to sleep in a coffin with the dirt they were buried in.
Yes.
But the other vampires don't. And so then it was like, and so there were all like different little things. Like there was a whole race of vampires called the Nosferatu that, you know, they're all hideously kind of deformed monsters.
Yeah.
And so it's such a fun game. I love Vampire the Masquerade.
Supposedly getting a remake, but I don't know.
They've actually, I was talking with my friend that I played these games with. They've done a new edition that's taking place like in modern day, and they've like shaken up all of the World of Darkness stuff.
I think it's
Very
called
cool.
like Bloodlines. But some vampires, you remember the Brendan Fraser Mummy movie, right, Jay?
Yes.
You know how he's afraid of cats?
Yes.
Apparently, in some stories, vampires are afraid of cats and dogs.
Okay.
And also, because of their fear of sunlight, they're also afraid of roosters.
Okay.
Because, you know, rooster crowing means the sun's coming
Yeah.
up.
No, that makes perfect sense.
So vampires lack a reflection, as we've often discussed.
Yep.
They can get wet, but they lack a reflection.
Yep.
But apparently, in some myths, vampires are actually afraid to look on their reflection.
Okay.
Because humans can't see their reflection, but apparently when a vampire looks in a mirror, they see how hideously old they are. Even though they don't appear that old to us, they see like their real age in the mirror.
Okay.
Kind of like a Portrait of Dorian Gray type thing.
Oh, also, we didn't talk about the best vampire movie. One of only, I think, maybe 3 vampire movies we will talk about for our actual podcast. For mainline episodes, Two Front Teeth. Greatest vampire
Yes.
movie I've ever seen.
That is an amazing vampire movie.
Nosferatu.
Oh, Nosferatu.
The other 2, at least that I know of, there might be more Christmas vampire movies. Red Snow and The Last Sleigh Ride. So we have those to look forward to.
All right, Jay. Do you know any vampire stories? I talked about Carmilla. Do you know any lesser-known vampire stories? Might be worth checking out.
I don't know. Probably not.
There was a book I read in college called Sunset Park, which is a book about a man who believes he's a vampire but isn't really. That's actually pretty good.
Okay.
George R.R. Martin, before he became ultra famous and wrote Game of Thrones.
And then stopped writing Game of Thrones.
Yes, as I say, you could read a book he actually finished called Fever Dream from 1982. It's set in the 18th century, and it's about a riverboat captain who has an encounter with a group of vampires in Louisiana.
Oh man, I might have to read that.
It's pretty interesting.
And maybe I'll get some hints for what was supposed to happen in the 2 books that we're never gonna get.
Of course, it's not really, I would say, it's not unknown, but no one really talks about it anymore. Salem's Lot by Stephen King.
Oh yeah, I was gonna mention that when you mentioned like vampires as your friend. The moment that made me think of was the scene in Salem's Lot with the kid outside the window.
But it's like that one was, I mean, it was popular-ish at the time, but I think people just kind of forgot about it because of all the other crazy things Stephen King wrote afterwards.
Right.
But yeah, it was one of his earlier books, and I think I would say probably one of my favorites of the Stephen King books.
I mean, being early. I mean, as you've said, like as he goes on, it gets
and
more and more convoluted.
He gets more and more self-indulgent, and writes a chapter about every single character, and it just you get lost in the weeds, and that pissed me off so much. So I watched Cujo, thought it was a pretty good movie, so I'm like, hey, I'll check out the Cujo book. That dog is like barely in that book, Jay.
No comment. I've not read Cujo.
It's a whole bunch of chapters of family drama about people you don't know or care about, and then at the beginning, at the end, there's a dog with rabies.
And then Dee Wallace is there, and her aborted son fights her. Oh no, sorry, wrong Dee Wallace.
Damn, wrong movie. All right, Jay. So, how do you think you would do on a little quiz about vampires?
I don't know. Well, prior to this, I thought I probably would have done pretty well, but I guess that remains to be seen. Well,
in Bram Stoker's novel Dracula, what is the name of the ship that brings Dracula to England?
The Last Vampire of the Demetrius.
Yes.
The Last Voyage of the Demeter. So the Demeter.
Yes, indeed. What is the name of the author who created the character Lestat de Lioncourt? in the Vampire Chronicles series.
That would be Anne Rice.
Correct. In the TV series Buffy the Vampire Slayer, what is the name of Buffy's vampire love interest?
Well, there's two. There's Angel, which I'm sure is the answer they're looking for. But also, if you're a fan like me, there's Spike, the much cooler vampire.
Yes, they are looking for Angel, but Spike was also an option.
Yeah, I love Spike.
Which actor played the vampire Louis Dulac in Anne Rice's Interview with the Vampire?
Oh man, well, would that have been Tom Cruise, like you mentioned?
No, Tom Cruise's Lestat.
Okay, so was that Brad Pitt?
Yes,
okay.
it was Brad Pitt. What is the name of the vampire clan led by Victor in the Underworld film series?
Oh, I've never seen an Underworld movie. I'm gonna say the Gangrel.
No, it has a pretty metal name.
Okay.
The Death Dealers.
Oh, that's a cool name. Also, Gangrel. That's a famous vampire, the wrestling vampire.
Yes, it's true. How could I have not remembered that, Jay? In the film Let the Right One In, what is the name of the young vampire girl?
Oh, I don't know.
Ellie.
Okay.
Who wrote Dracula, Jay?
Bram Stoker. No, Bram Stoker.
Correct. In the TV series True Blood, what synthetic blood product allows vampires to coexist with humans?
Oh, I've not seen True Blood. My wife's a bit of a True Blood fan. Oh man, I feel like I know this, like just kind of like through osmosis, but I could not tell you.
It is the titular product. It's called True Blood.
Oh, well, that would make perfect sense.
Which of the following is not a traditional method of killing a vampire, Jay? Decapitation, garlic ingestion, sunlight exposure, or stake through the heart?
Oh man. I mean, you probably could cut off a vampire's head. I don't know. I don't know how that would go for you. I'm gonna say the garlic ingestion. It's more of like an aversion to garlic than it's.
Yes, it doesn't actually kill them. They just don't like it.
Yeah, it keeps them away.
What is the name of the ancient vampire queen in the novel Queen of the Damned?
Ooh, that's I never read Queen of the Damned. I'm gonna take a gamble. Okay, I'm gonna use what you told me earlier, and I'm gonna say Carmilla.
No.
Oh darn! I was
Akasha.
Okay.
Although it should have been Carmilla. If Anne Rice had been more clever, she would have done that. In the film Blade, what is the title character's primary weapon against vampires?
Blades,
Yes.
swords, katanas.
Yes, swords they're looking for. What is the name of the vampire who serves as the primary antagonist in the Twilight book series?
Edward James Olmos.
It is James, actually. I knew you were in those books. All right. So, which country is the setting for the 2014 mockumentary "What We Do in the Shadows"?
New Zealand, right?
Yes.
Oh, that I've seen that movie. What We Do in the Shadows. I watched the first couple episodes. I need to get back into it. Love Matt Berry. He's so dang funny. Who
directed the 1987 film Near Dark, a modern take on the vampire genre?
I don't. Oh, is that John Carpenter?
It was a John Carpenter adjacent project.
Okay.
But it was not directed by him. It was directed by a frequent collaborator of John Carpenter.
Ooh. Because John Carpenter was Prince of Darkness, right? That was his vampire movie. I don't know.
Catherine Bigelow.
Okay.
Okay, Jay. Where's Interview with the Vampire set for most of its story?
It's New Orleans, right?
Yes.
Nolans.
What is the name of the ancient vampire in Anita Blake, Vampire Hunter, the book series by Laurel K. Hamilton?
Oh man, maybe I've read one of these, but oh shoot, I don't know if I could tell you.
Jean-Claude.
Okay.
I believe after Jean-Claude Van Damme. In the film What We Do in the Shadows, what is the name of the human familiar who helps the vampires with their day-to-day activities?
Oh shoot. I don't think I can tell you.
He's frequently cursed for being incompetent.
Right. Oh, I don't know if I can tell you.
Stu.
Okay. I was gonna say like Reggie, but
Damn
I think
it, Stu.
my favorite scene in What We Do in the Shadows is there's like the Nosferatu looking guy that lives in the basement, and then like the wallpaper gets torn down, so he just gets burned alive or whatever.
A vampire is commonly able to turn into what animal at will, Jay?
Bat.
Yes. What is the name of the vampire clan that Edward Cullen belongs to in the Twilight series?
I have no idea.
Well, do a little. He's Edward Cullen, Jay.
Oh, so it'd be Clan Cullen.
Yes.
Okay. I guess that makes sense.
In the TV series Being Human, which I have never seen, I don't know if you have.
Me neither.
What supernatural creature is Aiden?
A vampire.
Yes, yes, he is, Jay.
Nailed it.
Nailed it. So you're not completely incompetent at vampire quizzing, Jay.
Apparently not.
You're pretty good. Well, unless you have any other vampire-related things to talk about, Jay, or if you have anything else.
No, not really. Vampires are cool. Like I think it's one of my favorite things in like folklore is the vampire. Like I said, I played a lot of Vampire the Masquerade, tabletop pen and paper role playing game. When I was in middle school and high school, very, very age inappropriate. Those games are apparently supposed to be very sexy, and my friends and I treated it more like a D&D style thing where like we were adventuring. But like, played a lot of that and just like, I like kind of vampire folklore, like the whole, was it like tuberculosis or whatever that they would like dig people up because they thought they were vampires and like
Yes.
and so that whole thing, like I thought that was a really neat story when I heard that story and stuff.
Since you brought that up, Jay, did you know that in the 18th century a vampire epidemic was believed to sweep Eastern Europe? And that led to various ritual practices such as exhuming and staking suspected vampires.
Because it was like something about the way that like the disease like kept preserved the body or something.
It kept the bacteria from the TB infection did something to slow down like the degeneration of your cells. And so yes, people would look for weeks afterwards like they had just been freshly buried. So obviously that's going to freak people out.
Yeah. Oh, so they're a vampire. So. But yeah, I always thought, and then of course it would be their family members that would start getting sick because they were sick, and so it just kind of the cycle just kind of repeated itself. But I thought that was a really neat story when I heard it.
So Carmilla inspired Bram Stoker, Jay.
Yeah,
but did you know that something also inspired Carmilla?
I did not.
The Vampire by John Polidori was published in 1819. And he also does pretty much, he's a charming aristocrat like Dracula. He moves in upper crust social circles. He does his hypnosis thing on women, turns into a fog, turns into a bat, all that kind of stuff. He was Lord Ruthven.
Ooh, that's a cool name.
But yes, he's a much older vampire than Dracula.
Also played a little bit of the Ravenloft D&D setting with the,
yes.
What's his name? Like
Stroud.
Stroud, yeah, love that guy. Love his dark influence and stuff like that.
In the D&D campaign I'm running right now, the main antagonist is a vampire.
Always fun. I also have a new favorite vampire, Asturion in Baldur's Gate 3. That guy's great.
He is pretty cool.
A little bit of an asshole, but...
A little bit of an asshole, but then again, who isn't? Jay?
Right. Oh, I mean, Karlach, she's not an asshole. She's great.
But we talked about their evolution in pop culture. We talked about their weaknesses. Of course, there's vampires from all around the world. We talked a lot about Filipino monsters in our cryptids episode, but they also have the Aswang, which is a vampire, basically.
Oh, very cool.
And Chinese have the Zhang Shi, which is basically just a vampire, although they're more of a... They're called jade vampires in some, translations. Basically, people think they were they use magic to bring jade statues to life that serve them and guard them during the day. So that's a little Chinese twist on the myth.
Oh, very. I always love. It's kind of a neat thing how cultures that for years were separated by some distance, kind of came up with the same stories,
still overlap. It almost makes you wonder, Jay, were they talking about something real?
It does, but they weren't. Sadly,
I don't know, Jay. A lot of evidence for this thing being real. I mean, so many documentaries.
Yeah, I mean, certainly, Twilight contradicting everything we've heard about vampires previously. Oh no, it's okay. They live in Seattle, and that's why because it's cloudy there all the time, so that's why they can go out in the daylight.
Yeah, obviously. Which I don't understand. It's okay, so even Dracula, when he's fully fed or whatever, he's able to go out in the daylight. He's just severely weakened by it. But I don't know. It's weird because the way they use sunlight as a weakness is so uneven in vampire novels and movies. Because I don't think they're vulnerable to sunlight in True Blood either.
Okay.
Which, I mean, that's, if you're talking about steamy vampire romances, Jay, that's basically a vampire fuckfest.
I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, it might be one to watch with the wife. But no, I mean, that's pretty much all I got on vampires. I kind of wanted to, when we're doing these stocking stuffers where we don't have like a movie or anything to talk about, I thought delving into some of the lore about classic monsters might be fun.
No, absolutely. I think that's a great idea. I know that. I mean, vampires are awesome. I mean, like I said, played a lot of vampire stuff when I was younger.
I hope the vampire resurgence continues. Oh, and I always go out of my way to do an Elder Scrolls playthrough as a vampire.
Oh yeah, they added that in.
Yes.
That was a DLC, right?
There was a vampire expansion for Skyrim, and Oblivion. You could also become a vampire, which was pretty fun.
Oh, very cool. But yeah, if you want to talk to us about vampires, send us an email, horrorfortheholidays@gmail.com. If you want to talk to us about vampires, leave us a comment on our YouTube page. But if you also want to talk to us about vampires, see us at Chiller Theater Expo in New Jersey, Saturday, the 27th of April, 26th of April,
26, 27, something like that.
27th of April here. We'll be there. Look for two fat guys walking around. We got our haircut so we don't look like we just what did you say? Came down from the
off a
mountain.
Yes.
Oh man, there's a half shaven Sasquatch
Yes.
running around.
I didn't want to frighten people. There might be some conspiracy theory people there. I didn't want them to think there was a rogue Sasquatch on the loose.
Sasquatch is a thing I haven't seen before. But yeah, see us there. We'll be there to meet people.
We'll be talking to people. We'll be perusing the merchandise, walking the booths.
Most importantly, I'll be crying because I'll get to see Eric Freeman and Robert Brian Wilson, and it'll just be really emotional. Just the two of the greatest killer Santas of all time.
Maybe we could just get him to sign some Garbage Day merchandise for us.
Oh man. Anyway, yeah, that'd be great. Also follow us on all the socials.
Also, come join me in harassing William Shatner while he's there.
And Walter Koenig, but not harassing. Just Walter Koenig is also going to be there.
I say Walter Koenig's nice. I'm not going to harass him.
Also, Chris Kattan's going to be there.
Yes, I wondered if you saw that because it's one of Jay's personal heroes.
Yeah, well, I might have to go see if I can meet Chris Kattan.
Yeah, you're gonna have to bring a copy of Little Nicky for him to sign.
I was gonna do Corky Romano, or I was gonna do Santa's sleigh because he's in the opening scene.
Oh yeah, that's true. We could have him sign a copy of Santa's Sleigh for the show.
Yeah. But yeah, follow us on socials, at horror4 holidays. We are on TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, Threads, X/Twitter. I made a Twitch account, I think with the same name, but I've not done anything with it. Because maybe we will start streaming horror video games at some time.
Maybe.
If we can figure that out. I just bought Resident Evil 4 and I'm playing through it. And I'm not very good, guys. I was really, really good on the GameCube, but they made this game a lot tougher for people who haven't picked it up in 15 years.
I mean, that would be amazing, though, to watch Jay fail at Resident Evil.
I mean, you could also watch me fail at Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I wasn't very good when I tried to play that.
We could play that one together.
Yeah, but yeah, we'll figure stuff out hopefully soon. And the PlayStation ID, I believe, is also horror the number 4 holidays.
Yes. We got all the things. Like us, vote us, rate us, tell us we're fat.
Yep, YouTube, subscribe, hit the bell, leave a comment, thumbs up, all that good stuff. Same for your podcatcher of choice, 5 stars, all that good stuff.
Might as well talk a little bit about our schedule again in case people haven't heard.
Right, so this episode is going to come out, then we're going to do another stocking stuffer live from New Jersey.
Yes.
Where we'll talk about kind of our whole road trip, and hopefully we survive to make it back to Iowa, since we'll be releasing it before we make it back.
Yes, and we will be, hopefully, I think, probably not going to miss. So this will be a stocking stuffer, then we'll have another stocking stuffer from New Jersey, and then we should be back to a regular episode after that.
I think we'll do one more stocking stuffer, or we'll skip, and then we'll be that way we can kind of keep our weeks the same.
Okay.
And then if we ever do need to move stuff around, because of how days change in the year, then we can kind of talk about that later.
Indeed.
Because I like our current schedule because I think we have episodes that come out right around Christmas in July and regular Christmas. But as the years roll on, those will then become off weeks. So then we'll have to bump stuff around.
We will do our best to make our Horror for the Holidays release around the holidays.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, otherwise, thanks for listening. We'll see you again next week with an episode about Chiller Theater Expo and, having panic attacks on the interstate and stuff like that.
And I'll have an intimate interview about my dinner at Ruth Chris Steakhouse with Jay Logston.
We'll see, or we'll just order good New York, New Jersey pizza. We'll figure something out. Thanks for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.